Macklin, Celebrini, Cole Eiserman, and much more. This 2024 NHL Draft is looking incredible. But if the 2024 NHL Draft were to start today, which prospects would go to which teams and who would end up inside the top 3 in the draft lottery? Well, folks, make sure you watch till the end because we are going to be simming the top 15 of the 2024 NHL Draft. So make sure you watch till the end for every single pick and all of the draft profiles. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey draft content just like this as we lead up to the 2024 draft. But here are the NHL Draft lottery odds 1 month into the season. You can see there's some big surprises here. Calgary, Edmonton, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, all being near the dumpster. And for first overall chances, it goes all the way up to Seattle. So the top 11 teams here all have a chance to get first overall in this simulation. But especially with how many amazing defensemen there are in this class, the NHL Draft Lottery could determine a lot, especially if a team is going to reach for a D. If they go into the top 3, it changes everything. But man, I'm kind of just rooting for San Jose to still get the first overall pick with how dreadful they have been. One of the worst starts and not the worst start in NHL history. They deserve something, man. But now, without further ado, let's start out the first draft lottery sim of the 2024 season. Let's go see who gets inside the top 3, simming it, and the Edmonton. Oh my goodness. The Pacific Division. Okay, Edmonton going up to first place with the Seattle Kraken at number 2 and the San Jose Sharks at number 3. But now that we know the draft lottery results, how will the top 15 look and where will each prospect go? But let's get things started here with the Edmonton Oilers, of course, drafting first overall because of course they are. Let's go on to number 1, and for the first player drafted in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Edmonton Oilers are proud to select out of Boston University, Macklin Celebrini, who will not be one of the Nail Yakupovs, will be a lot more in line with the Connor McDavid. With Macklin Celebrini, we have seen just how dominant he has been in the NCAA level, and he doesn't turn 18 until this next June. You can see with BU so far this year, in 6 games, he has 8 goals, 3 assists for 11 points, and those stats aren't just padding. He has been excellent this year for Boston in an offensive role and getting better and better defensively as he adapts to the NCAA level. His offensive creativity is off the charts, and this is a guy that will push pace at the NHL level in such a big way. Being with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl is just going to be unfair. Now, I didn't include mock trades in this video, but there is the possibility of Edmonton gets that first overall pick that they were to trade it. Maybe they are able to use that pick to get rid of the Jack Campbell contract, bring in an elite goaltender and a couple other pieces onto the NHL roster. But of course, you have the potential of Macklin Celebrini and Cole Eiserman, so it's going to take a lot for Edmonton to get rid of that pick. Now let's go on to the second overall pick, and the Seattle Kraken, who have made a couple of really high offensive picks in their franchise history of Shane Wright and Matty Beniers, will be adding on to that with the second overall pick. The Kraken are proud to select out of the U.S. NTDP, Cole Eiserman. Now, Cole Eiserman is going to be added onto the Seattle team, and it is going to be a legendary addition. They already, of course, got Shane Wright and Matty Beniers up the middle, which is fantastic for them in the future, but Cole Eiserman is going to add a different dynamic. This is one of the best goal scorers the U.S. NTDP has ever seen, and another player that is super young with an August birthday. But you can see what he's been able to do in the U.S. NTDP, 18 goals in 12 games, 9 goals against 6 games against U.S. HL competition. This is an absolute sniper through and through, will be a deadly power play threat throughout his entire career. There could be some points where maybe you want to see more out of him defensively, a little bit more effort in his own end, but at the same time, Seattle's already drafted 2 players in Beniers and Wright, who I think defensively could put up their own in the future. With Eiserman, he's going to be this offensive talent that Seattle doesn't even have on the roster, doesn't even have close on the roster. Sure, Matty Beniers and Shane Wright are solid, but Cole Eiserman is different and will be different with Seattle. Well, let's go on to the poor unfortunate souls that are the San Jose Sharks, who of course dropped from the best odds onto the 3rd overall pick, but thankfully for them, there are some great options here. You have potential picks in players like Aron, Demidov, Sam Dickinson, even a player like Berkly, Catton, or Konsta Helenius could be in play here. But in the end, I think the San Jose Sharks will be proud to select from Michigan State University, Belarusian stud, Artyom Levshunov. And to me, I think this will be a really interesting pick for San Jose. It won't be an Eiserman or Macklin Celebrini, which they probably do need, but Levshunov being added onto that defense brings them a lot more stability. We've seen Mike Greer already prioritize grit onto a lot of their prospects, besides a couple of exceptions like maybe Will Smith. I think they'll want to add a big-time D in this draft. Levshunov is that. As a 6'2" D, Levshunov so far with Michigan State has 7 points in 8 games. We've seen that two-way game be fantastic for Michigan State so far. The responsibility in his zone end, but the great puck handling ability too. He's a player that is efficient, great passer, especially getting out of his zone end. He's a good transition position player too. And I think for San Jose, he'll be a good mix where he can be a top pair D, eat up a lot of minutes for them. And I think for San Jose, that'll be something they really prioritize in this next draft. I mean, dude, have you seen this San Jose defense lately? They need somebody to eat up minutes. Now on to the 4th overall pick, and this is where the Calgary Flames will finish in the draft. I mean, the Pacific Division, man, just absolutely loading up in the top end of things. But this pick to me is so influential for Calgary's future. They're at a bit of a crossroads here, and I think they will be sellers at this deadline, which could even get them a better draft pick in the end. But this is going to be a really consequential pick and probably one of the most important in franchise history. I could see them going for a forward, but to me, I think defense is most likely, especially with how many deals we'll see at the deadline. I expect to see Noah Hanifin gone, maybe even a couple other players like Nikita Zadorov potentially. Calgary could offload a bunch of different guys here and add some defense into the prospect pool. And in saying that, going on to the 4th overall pick, the Calgary Flames are excited to announce out of the KHL, they will be selecting Anton Silayev, who is one of the biggest risers in this draft that we've seen so far. Another player that's pretty young at a 17-year-old birthday, April birthday, and this is a player that has jumped onto the scene in the KHL and looked pretty at home. But as you can see, 6'7", 207 pounds, this is a big boy we are talking about here. You can also see the production, which is the best production out of any U18 defenseman in the KHL ever so far, with 25 games played, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. There's nothing really incredibly special about Silayev in my opinion, but he's a smooth skater, is efficient offensively, knows how to corral and play off the blue line, work off his teammates well. This is a player that I think will be a solid top 4D, and even though I'm definitely not as high on him to go 4th overall, this is a player that can bring some great aspects to the game, and especially if he's able to use his body more defensively, has a lot of potential. And I think that's what the Calgary Flames are looking for here, that big potential. Silayev does bring that onto the defense and hopefully resets that defense in a big way going forward. Now let's go on to the 5th overall pick and finally out of the Pacific with the Chicago Blackhawks. And this pick to me is kind of all over the place because I could see them going for maybe a stronger, bigger player, but at 5th overall, I really don't see any player at that spot that isn't a reach in my personal opinion. And with Chicago, I think we've seen recently how they go best player available, especially with their 1st round picks. In saying that, I think the Chicago Blackhawks will add another big time forward here with some fantastic high octane offense. Out of the WHL, the Chicago Blackhawks draft 5th overall, Berkly Catton, who has had a great start to the season, is a player that I think preferably you'd want to be a little bit bigger and a little more physically mature. But again, if we're talking about best player available, Catton is one of the best players in this spot. He is so exhilarating. The offense he's able to put out day in and day out. He is such a high offense, high octane player in the offensive zone. The pace that he's able to keep around the boards, the playmaking he has, the vision, it's all at a great level. And I think for Chicago, they'll just love the potential that is had here. I mean, you can see just how great he's been in the WHL these past couple of years. And this year, 18 points in 12 games, 7 goals with Spokane. And to me, I think the Blackhawks are really going to benefit from another first line talent. He's a player that can be alongside Bedard in a perfect situation. Maybe you have someone on the right wing that's a little bit more physically inclined, but to me, I think with Catton, you could have a brilliant pairing there that the offense is just sky high with. But I do think one of the main reasons why they will select Catton is the fact that he can drive his own line if he needs to. I could absolutely see him being a great second line player, not needing to be with Bedard to succeed. And I think for Chicago, that will be a big add-on to the prospect pool. Now let's move on to 6th overall and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah, not exactly where I think they envision themselves to be at this point. We'll see if they're able to rebound from this, but at 6th overall, they have a plethora of options, but really only one makes sense here. And at 6th overall, the Pittsburgh Penguins will run up to the stage to select Ivan Demidov, who to me, I think just makes so much sense for the Penguins. Of course, with Malkin still the twilight years of his career, I think they'll go for another high potential Russian. Demidov fits that bill. Unfortunately, his draft season really has not gone to plan, mostly because of injuries, but you can see he's played a few games in the KHL, 1 game in the VHL, a couple games in the MHL, no points up to this point this season, which is really disappointing, but it's just the bad luck that he's received this year. Don't get me wrong though, Demidov is a player that has top 5, top 3 talent in this draft. The way he's able to slow time down, create space for his teammates. He is such a deceptive player offensively, has game-breaking skill, and is such a great clutch factor too. To me, Demidov brings a lot of pure offense to the game. And I think for Pittsburgh, if you're going for high offense, high potential players, which at this stage, I think they should be doing, Demidov is going to be perfect for them. And alongside a solid pick in Jaeger last year, they have a lot better of a forward group coming up here. Next up, let's go into the 7th overall spot here, and this is where the Minnesota Wild will select. And for many, I see them going for another forward, though I debated if they go for a defenseman at this stage. I don't know if they go for a D-man yet, but at this spot, at 7th overall, I think they will select Catton Lindstrom, who has been one of the biggest risers so far this year, and I was honestly debating him maybe going to Chicago 5th overall, but you can see another younger player with a February birth date, but 6'5", 205 pounds. And you can see he has had a great WHL stint so far in 2023, was solid for Medicine Hat, and this year has gotten even better, especially in the goal scoring department. 13 goals in 15 games and 22 points on the board. He has been terrific for Medicine, has been carrying them in a lot of ways offensively on his own line. He is a great goal scorer, though, is using that shot even better, using that physicality even more, but the work ethic he has is brilliant. I think Minnesota will really appreciate that. Next, so let's go into 8th overall, another Central Division team, this time with the Nashville Predators, who are in a really unique position considering they're kind of middle of the road position right now in the NHL, but I think they will go for a defenseman here with their first pick in the draft. And at 8th overall, I see them selecting Sam Dickinson out of the London Knights. Do not be surprised if he's a player, though, that does go top 5 in this draft. To me, he is a top 5 talent in this draft. I love Dicky. He has been such a fantastic player for London this year, but has great size, 6'3", 184 pounds. He is strong. He is responsible. He's mature in his game, and he's also super young too, with a June birth date as well. But so far, he has been brilliant for London. You can see in 12 games, 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points. He's not all offense, but he's a player that can bring it with his smooth skating, knows how to put the puck on net in a great way, knows how to get tips, knows how to create chaos, but defensively has a strong stick, is so responsible in his own end, and to me, this will be one of the better two-way players out of this draft. Nashville's getting a good one, and probably a top pairing D in the future. I'm not sure if he'll be a true number 1 D, but I could see him being a solid number 2 right behind Yossi in his last few seasons. Now we go into 9th overall, and next up, let's move on to the St. Louis Blues, first pick in 2024. They're a team that has been rough over the last couple of years, will likely be around this spot when it's all said and done in this season, but they have an opportunity here to add a lot of talent. But I think it is especially needed on that defense, and I think they will go for a D-man. I think they will select Adam Jiricek out of the main Czechia League, who of course is David Jiricek's brother at 17 years old, 6'1", 152 pounds. To me, with Adam, it's really interesting to see his game. He has 0 points in 12 games in Czechia so far, but to me, he could absolutely have a few. He has good offensive instincts. His skating is absolutely amazing and so fluid. He's a player that is so good at his own edges, and especially in his own zone, getting out with transition. I think he's going to be a great defender at the next level, though I do think he needs to add a lot more physicality, just like David did in his draft year. I think St. Louis is going to be really supportive of that. I think they're going to be really betting on that potential with Adam Jiricek, and I could see it panning out maybe in a middle pair role with St. Louis someday. Now we go into 10th overall, and the last pick inside the top 10 with the Ottawa Senators, who of course will be losing one of their first round picks over the next 3 years. They have the choice, though, after each draft lottery, whether they want to forfeit that pick or go to the next year. I think getting 10th overall, the Senators will use this pick in 2024, and I think they will select, with that 10th overall pick, Finnish stud Konsta Helenius. Now, in the past, I would have never even dreamed to pick a player under 6 foot as an Ottawa Senators draft pick, especially in the first round, but we, of course, will have a new management coming in, a new GM most likely, and of course, new ownership. I think the Ottawa Senators will use this pick. I think they're a lot smarter now to pick the best player available. Helenius is one of the best available. At 5'11", this player has been amazing in the league so far, and it really shows. In 17 games, he has 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points. Even though he's 5'11", he does not play undersized. It reminds me a lot of Logan Stankoven and how much drive, determination is in every single shift with him, and he gets rewarded in the league so far for it. But he has solid skill. I like his playmaking ability, and his shot is getting better and better. I think this is a player that could be a relentless top 6 player who brings some great physical aspects that I think Ottawa will still appreciate. Next to 11th overall, let's go on to the Philadelphia Flyers, who of course have their big brand. We know the type of player they will likely select. Now, I was tempted to go for a defenseman, and I think there's a few guys that could fit, but most of the guys around this range are right D, and I'm not really sure, especially with Cam York and Bonk on the right side, that they'll go for a defenseman. I think they're going to go for a forward here, and coming in at that 11th overall pick, I think they will select Ryder Ritchie. Now, Ryder Ritchie has been great so far. He has especially a young birth date at August, and to me, with Ryder Ritchie, there's a lot to go off of with him. You can see this year in 17 WHL games with Prince Albert, 10 goals, 11 assists, 21 points, but this is a player that's shifty with the puck, is such a great puck protector, and can really balance off that physical pressure. I think Philadelphia is really going to like that. That's something Cutter Gauthier is so good at as well. But to me, with Ryder Rich, he's able to protect the puck well, make shifty plays, but has the highlight reel type of play in him. He can just pop it out of nowhere, and he's the type of guy that can make some silky moves too. Though I do think there is still a lot to improve in his skating and acceleration. That will probably be the biggest weakness going forward. I think for Philly, they can work around that, have him on a top 6 role, and really like him. Now let's move on to the 12th overall pick here in the Washington Capitals, who will make one of the most interesting and really surprising picks of the 2024 NHL Draft. And with that 12th overall pick, I think the Caps will select out of the Kelowna Rockets Andrew Crystal's teammates in Tej Aginla. Of course, Jerome, NHL legend's son, has a fantastic chance, I think at this point, to be top 15 in the NHL Draft. Another younger player with an August birthday, a center slash winger, though at right wing he's been fantastic this year in the WHL, has solid size at 6 foot 181 pounds, and this year has been fantastic. 13 goals in 14 WHL games with 21 points, has been on fire over the last few weeks, continuing to get better and better. This is a guy that doesn't just ride in the coattails of the Jerome hype. He is his own player, and he is great, folks. I think for Washington, though, getting Crystal's teammate too, he's been great with him, great without him, but you add on to that forward group that gets a lot better with Crystal, of course, on it, with Miroshnichenko there, with Ryan Leonard. You're building a really competitive top 6 here. Next up, onto the 13th overall pick, and we got the Columbus Blue Jackets. This pick will be really interesting. I feel like for Columbus, they could go deep, but I think they're pretty set with a lot of young guys coming up. They already have too many young guys on the defense, and a couple of guys could end up getting traded. So I think they will go for another forward here, and I think they will select Trevor Connolly out of the Tri-City Storm. Now, Trevor Connolly is interesting at 6 foot 1, 161 pounds. You can see in the USHL, very solid production so far last year and this year, 15 points in 12 games, an assist per game so far with Connolly, which is great to see. To me, with Connolly, he has such game-breaking skill when he wants to put it out, but that's the problem. Sometimes there's a little bit of passiveness. Sometimes there are games where you want to see more out of him and a little bit of laziness, but at the same time, this is a player that if he's able to unlock that skill, put it all together, has one of the best playmaking games in the entire draft, is a guy that shot, I think, is really underrated, and she should be using it more, really. I mean, Columbus, though, will really appreciate this type of player, especially on the power play, and as a middle 6 scoring threat, will bring a lot to the team. Next, so let's go on to the 14th overall pick in the Buffalo Sabres. I'm not really sure who they will end up drafting. They have so many guys on the defense, on the offense, and of course, in the goaltending side with Devon Levi, that I'm not really sure what position they prioritize. They could go for a niche player like Liam Greentree, but I think Buffalo will prioritize big potential over anything, and if they can get a blue chip prospect that they could trade in the future, I think that is a big success for them, which is why at 14th overall, I think they will select Zayne Parekh out of the Saginaw Spirit, who continues to just be an excellent offensive D and continues to get better and better. You can see this year in 12 OHL games, has 3 goals, 12 assists for 15 points, has been a true leader on that Saginaw team, has unreal skill in transition, has great speed. This is an offensive player who will feast on a power play someday, be a great offensive middle pair D. Parekh is gonna be awesome in Buffalo. If they end up keeping him, if he is a power play guy, he would fit so cleanly, so efficiently on that team. But let's go on to the last pick in the NHL mock draft here. At 15th overall, we have the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, this is probably one that will likely not last, but Carolina, of course, in a lottery position right now, we still do have to see who they could potentially pick. And at 15th overall, I think there's another team just like Buffalo that's going to go high potential to potentially get a trade piece in the future. And a player, importantly, at least right now, that can be over in Europe, can develop there while they deal with their AHL team issues. And at 15th overall, I think the Carolina Hurricanes will select out of Sweden Norwegian stud Michael Brandsegg-Nygard. Now, to me, Brandsegg-Nygard is in a unique position right now. He hasn't scored much in the Allsvenskan, but you can see he was unreal in the Junior 20. And to me, this is a player that brings a great dual threat offense to the game, has solid confidence in his silky smooth skill set. He's a player that will be shifty, will be creative, will be crafty in the offensive zone, and I do like the confidence he uses, the passing ability he has, the outlet ability. He's a player that's great in transition as well. The problems do become with him, at least a little bit. I do want to see a little bit more of consistency in him. He's a player that can have some shifts where you want a little bit more, some of that physical play. He has good size, but I want to see him use that more as well. But this is a player that could develop develop into a solid, versatile, middle six forward, a Jesper Fast, perhaps, type of player. But I think for Carolina, they'll really like him if he does turn out, but if he doesn't, it's not the biggest deal. But that was my 2024 NHL mock draft simulation. Let us know down in the comments down below. What do you guys agree with? What do you guys disagree with? How do you see the top 15 turning out? Who do you see your team selecting in the 2024 draft? And who do you see going inside the top 10? Who do you see winning the draft lottery this year? Let us know all your thoughts down below. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you enjoyed today's video and want to see more draft content just like that all year round. We'd really love to have you in the Ground Gang if you guys do want to support. And of course, make sure you share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Share with all the Oilers fans you guys know online, because apparently they might win the draft lottery this year, I guess. And of course, make sure you click on this card for my 2024 draft content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, and goodbye.